and frankly, I took the survey too because I've got a kid in the district. I didn't know the survey was coming. I got it. It did seem to tie, the survey at least, seemed to tie the need for a modified calendar year to COVID-related impacts. And I think people were not wrong to take that from the survey. And I just want to make sure that we're careful because I don't want to suggest promises that may be difficult to keep. I am all in favor for having a discussion about modified year. Believe me. When I talk to teachers from Greenwood and other places, there's some big fans of it out there. But the research about academic achievement is incredibly mixed. And I just want to make sure that we're up front of that. That is not the only reason to have this discussion, but the survey seemed to leave that impression. It also left the impression with many that the decision had been made, and it was hard for them to find a way to answer a question that they care about all kids but may not want modified year programs. I hope that we'll be a little bit more thoughtful as we proceed with this discussion with all of our stakeholders. I will also say that some of our teachers felt caught off guard. They obviously got calls from parents who assumed the teachers knew that this was on the table. Two other quick things. Internet access for teachers. I'm hearing increasingly from teachers who have no cell reception in their classrooms. They no longer can access the internet. I think that is a real issue for those teachers. They are upset about it. We used to have a bring your own device access point. I know that we have ended that. I'd like us to reconsider that and make sure that teachers who do not have cell access in their classrooms are able to access the Wi-Fi. I think it's a daily life issue for those teachers who are struggling to keep in touch with their families. I don't think any of us would want our cell phones taken away for 7 hours of the day while we worked. That's essentially what's happening to these teachers, especially elementary school teachers who get so fewer breaks. It's also a safety issue. If there's an active shooter, I do not want to tell that teacher to go use the phone by the door because that's the last place that teacher needs to go. So I would really, again, ask, this is not the first time I've raised this. Teachers are raising it, I know. I'd ask that we revisit that. I think it's a quality of life issue for our teachers that we can fix. It's a decision we're making. Lastly, I was really troubled when I watched the attorney at the former Richland One employee's arraignment describe what he considered really obstructive conduct by the district. I always wondered why SLED took over, and then I wondered why there was a statewide grand jury. Well, he explained it. The City of Columbia Police kept trying to get documents and information from the district. He said we wouldn't provide it. Then he said SLED made phone calls that weren't returned. Then he said SLED showed up at the district administration office, this building, and couldn't get past reception. He explained, and if someone wants to tell me this isn't true, fine, but he said in court that the statewide grand jury was impaneled because that was the only way they could get information from the district. I hope that's not true. If that's true, that's insane, because that meant that people from this office had to be subpoenaed to go to a statewide grand jury rather than the district just providing the stuff that SLED wanted. So did that attorney, did he lie in court, or do we have any response? Because as one teacher said, he didn't get the memo not to say bad things about the district. Surely we've got a response to what he said, because what he said was really serious. Is there any response that we have, either from Ms. Williams or Dr. Witherspoon?
Commissioner Lominack, we're not in a position to get in a he said, she said, or they said in terms of that. That being said, what I will say is I don't think anybody needs to lose the point of the district found an issue. The district investigated. The district turned it over to law enforcement.
So we're not refuting his characterizations of us cooperating with law enforcement.
If that's what was said, I'm not here to say that's what he didn't perceive or what have you. No, Ms. Lominack, we're not gonna. We can't sit here and go back and forth. No, sir.
Well, when we talk about credibility in the public, and you've got an attorney in open court, and there's news stations videoing it and playing it, I think we and the public deserve a response to that because those were serious allegations. Because we're bragging. I mean, at one point we said there was no fraud. There was fraud. At one point we said we did everything right. It wasn't totally true. And now somebody's accusing us of literally not cooperating with law enforcement. And I just think the public deserves answers to that. It didn't have to be he said, she said. I just would love a he said once, some response to that, because it's really serious allegations, and it paints us in a bad light. And if we're not really willing to respond, I think that's what the public will take away from that. Thank you, Chairman Harris.
Do you have anything else?
Well, again, I would repeat, the district investigated. The district turned it over to law enforcement.
Okay. Attorney Williams?
Madam Chair, Commissioners, information was provided, information that they asked my office from was provided, and individuals went down there, all of the ones that they asked about. So if they needed something that was additional, I started out going down there with various individuals when that needed to be heard. It appeared that there may have been a few differences in terms of what one person said versus the other, and we got attorneys that were separate to take care of those issues. But everything that I'm aware of that was asked for was provided.
When you say down there, what do you mean?
I actually went over to behind the capital city, where they asked the individuals to come in to be interviewed and talk with individuals over there myself about what they needed, and what I'm aware of what they needed was provided. If they needed something else, no one contacted me about it.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Williams. Thank you for responding. I appreciate that.
Thank you. We're still in board